Yeah, it was interesting. I remember there was a, DVD video that Tony Robbins was given a live event, I don't know, Hawaii or somewhere when September 11th happened. And it was just interesting the reaction of the people in the audience or the people that were witness to that. And so people tend to fall back on their go to. Some people, something like that happens, they get very emotional, they cry. Other people get really angry. And I remember there were people in the audience that were fighting because you had there were some Muslim guys in there, and some of them were like, "Hey," because he stood up and he asked questions, and some were like, "Hey, this is retribution. America deserved this." And then so you can imagine in a seminar, I don't know, thousands of people, and somebody stands up and says, "Well, this is retribution for what you guys have been doing in the Middle East." And so people were literally fighting in the audience. And so it was interesting what came from that. There was a guy that was from Israel, Jewish guy, and a Muslim guy. They got together on stage, and they ended up forming an organization that focused on helping to bring peace between, I think it was like the Palestinians and Israel. And it was really interesting that came out of that. But the point being is that everybody has a different reaction when something happens, and we decide it's like, what's our go-to place? It's like you ask yourself, like, if you make a list, anybody watch this, make a list of all of the emotions that you've had in the past week. And what's interesting, people make that list and then they go through it. It's most of the emotions that they experience on a weekly basis typically are negative. And so if you're going through the week and you're constantly experiencing negative emotions, then that's pretty much your life takes on a negative meaning because you're literally assigning what things mean to you versus somebody that's, say, an optimist. And if something goes sideways, it's like I remember when I was in real estate and we would have a deal that was getting ready to close and then the buyer backs out at the last minute. And then we got to close on it, and then we end up paying the closing costs, and we got to hold it, find somebody else to sell it to. So now you're paying interest expense on the property. You had to pay all the closing costs to close on it.
Right.
And then you got to find another buyer.
Right.
And I remember our attitude was always, you know what, we'll end up making more money on this somehow. And typically what happened, the appraisal would come back in. It would appraise higher than we thought it would, or maybe the rehab estimate would come in a little bit lower. And so we were able to almost 100% of the time make more money in the long run with when things like that would happen. And because that was like our attitude. It's like, oh, if it blows up, because that was just part of the business. Or there's a title problem, getting ready to close, and then the thing has a title problem. It takes 6 months, a year to resolve, and then the person buying is like, I want to start investing in real estate now. I don't want to wait a year until this thing frees up.
Yeah.
And so it's just really how you look at things, the meaning that you assign things.
As far as emotions, like you were saying, if you added up all the emotions that you experienced throughout the week, I guess there are people who keep themselves busy, or they just are busy, very busy, and that prevents them from experiencing a lot of emotions. Maybe the only thing they're experiencing is how busy they are, or maybe stress.
Well, inaction, like Dale Carnegie said, inaction breeds fear and doubt. Taking action breeds confidence and courage. And so if you're having a bad day, well, I always say the best thing you do is lose yourself in taking action towards accomplishing the things that you want to accomplish. Because then you feel productive.
Yeah.
And it's like
that's what I'm big on. That's mainly what I'm, at this time right now, that's what I'm focused on. Working towards my goals, and got a lot on my plate, so I'm too busy to think about much. Just always working like a maniac.
One of the things that Peterson said that I liked, he said, life takes on meaning and purpose when you get busy doing things for other people, whether it's business or growing your life or working out, starting a business on the side, going back to school, reading books. The more you immerse yourself in doing things that you find joy and excitement in, the more your life takes on meaning versus just, you remember when I lived down in South Beach, it's like we would go hang out on the beach all day and literally do nothing because I really didn't have to work. But it gets boring after a while sitting on the beach all the time. It gives you a lot of time to contemplate. And, I wrote my second book, Mastering Yourself, when I was living there. And that was a great place to write an autobiographical type of book because you have a lot of time for introspection. But after you spend that much time, in essence, not doing a lot, relaxing, enjoying your life, slowing down a little bit, as a man, you start to feel a little antsy. You wanna do something. You wanna do something that contributes to the world in a positive way. And like one of the things you've done is now you've got your arrangements. So tell us a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, right. That's part of what's been keeping me busy, especially finishing that. Yeah, so I completed my first book. Yep, this is a book of arrangements for classical guitarists. So for classical guitarists out there, it's an excellent addition. There are excellent additions to someone's repertoire. I chose this repertoire with pieces that are commonly known to the public, things that are popular among the general public, and advanced material, but good for a Christmas gift for anybody who anyone who plays fingerstyle guitar or classical guitar. But it's 7 different arrangements with meticulous fingerings, and so I was excited about it. I did it all. First book, so published on Amazon. That's called Solo Guitar Arrangements for the Virtuoso Classical Guitarist. It's also available on my website as well, Classical Guitar Orlando. Well, as we mentioned earlier, BrianHayesMusic.com will take you to both of my websites. So the classical guitar materials are on the classical guitar site and the lessons site are 2 different sites. So Brian Hayes Music is like a hub page, I guess. It's a hub to take you to the 2 one. But yeah, that's exciting. That's just this week. So there you go.
Yeah, it's cool to finally
more to
see
come.
Because he's been he's been talking about this for years and years, and then now he's finally publishing all these things and getting them out.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah. I've published several arrangements of mine for a while now as sheet music singles, which are also available on my website. But this is the first time I've published the collection as a book, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff.
What gives your life meaning? What gets you up early, keeps you up late at night working on things like this? Why do you do what you do?
Well, it's because I guess it's real important to me to be successful, to be more and more successful, to be more successful. I mean, I want to do more while I'm here. I guess I don't know, like Steve Jobs had this sense of urgency because he felt that ever since childhood, he felt that his life would be short. He thought he believed he was going to die young. He believed he was going to die young. Turned out to be true, which is kind of unusual. So, but I don't feel that my life's going to be short. But still, there's a limited time. Even if I live till I'm 90, I figure, well, there's still not that much time. So I have this sense that I want to do as much as I can in the time that I have, similar to, I guess, how he thought, and that's what drives me. I guess I want to make a footprint, I guess I want to do as much as I can while I'm here. And so I'm kind of going to be having more of an online presence in the upcoming years. So maybe my next podcast, depending on when we do the next one, I might have a lot more to tell, maybe have a lot more to talk about, because of all the stuff I'm working on now.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What about you? What takes on meaning for you? What gives your life meaning? Why do you do what you do, Chunky?
That's a very deep question.
Going to school, obviously working with myself, Pocahontas, who's you can't see, but she's behind the monitor.
For me, for what brings meaning in my life, I guess we're looking longer term, like why I do a lot of the work and stuff I do. I kind of wanted to establish myself to where I can just provide for my family and just kind of be that rock or help them out and essentially be there for, I want to be there for my family and just kind of bring light and joy to everyone else's life, essentially. I like to be positive a lot all the time. There's just a lot of negativity in the world, so I'm kind of trying to counteract that. And I also want to help teach people things that are just like interesting things I find. I'm really into like history as well too, and just the whole universe.
History
is
huge for me.
So that's what I'm passionate about, or like those kind of classes, courses, or just teachings. So my other goal with that is to be able to teach that to people. And longer term goal, I kind of want to start a production company, I think, and make produce stuff. one of my big goals, I think I've always kind of wanted to do is I want to make like a movie, either like an animated movie, I think, because I have full control over that. I don't want to deal with actors and stuff. I guess I'll deal with voice actors, but
Well, we've got our mutual friend. Obviously, we can't say. One of my friends who has done all the educational documentaries we've done on the economic prosperity for all, Second Amendment, socialism, capitalism, he deals with all the people in Hollywood. And obviously, if they knew he was conservative, that would really cause a lot of problems in his movie career. So, we're working on a couple of documentaries that'll probably be out in the next year as well. But he can't talk publicly about what he does because everybody in Hollywood's leftist basically, and if you're a conservative where everybody's leftist, it's like you're not going to get your movies made. But you'll get to work on obviously those. So Caroline,
it's exciting.
Yeah.
What's interesting, we were talking earlier about beliefs and how anything that happens in life, we decide what it means to us, and we're going to act consistently with how we view ourselves to be, and it doesn't matter whether the view is accurate or not.
Yeah. Well, that is to do with a different book for a different day. The book I mentioned earlier, Sapiens, that would be a nice podcast too. He goes into belief in what humans, the fact that they're able to conjure up imagined realities. Yeah. That's the one thing that's unique for us.
Yeah. Just the consciousness explosion from when we kind of left our ape ancestors and stuff.
And we don't think about it, but even something like a corporation, it's not real in the true sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I can believe I have a corporation, but that doesn't make it one. But if you and I believe it and we put it on paper, it's now it now exists.
Or like the same thing with money as well too. We just it only functions and works because we all believe, we give it value. We just have belief in it. At the end of the day, it's just a piece of paper essentially. Like it's not like a true survival. Like at the end of the day, say everything kind of hits the fan. The only thing that's really you need is just water and food and essentially shelter.
And guns and ammo.
Yeah.
But the author of that book, Sapiens, that's one of the first things he talks about is corporations, and he goes on from there. So, yeah, that's an amazing book. That book really impacted me more than any other thing I've read in the past several years. Yeah. So, I guess I just plugged it for him.
One book I liked was I like Carl Jung for psychology and philosophy. I'm really into his.
Well, it's funny because that's where Jordan Peterson. I think that's how Jordan Peterson figured out how to manage his Christian faith and combined with his embracing higher education and Darwinian evolution and the scientific process. I mean, it's hard to, I think, manage those two things. And I think really Carl Jung is the one that I think that's what he relied on to get him through. It's funny. I don't know if he'll see this podcast. He's never come, but if you watch him enough, you'll figure out that that's how he did it. Because it's mysterious how he did it. To me, it's mysterious. How did you, he said, in one interview I saw with him, he said it took him years, by the way. Yeah. It took him years how to figure out how to salvage his Christian faith in light of all of his learning.